Welcome back to Kano Academy. Today, we'll be covering economics by discussing social indicators such as demographics, Human Development Index, Human Poverty Index, health and nutrition, education, services, as well as housing and urbanization. Please stay tuned until the end of the video because we'll also provide you with 5 quick study tips to help you pass your assignments, tests, and exams. So, let's get started. As an introduction, let's define what we mean by social indicators. Social indicators are sometimes called human development indicators or development indicators because they indicate changes in the standard of living. Social indicators are essentially concerned with people, and they are useful tools used to monitor identifiable and definable issues related to human well-being over a period of time. Some of the social indicators include demographics, Human Development Index, Human Poverty Index, health and nutrition, education, services, as well as housing and urbanization. We will now briefly discuss each of these indicators. Let's start with demographics. Demographics provide information about where people are located, what their needs are, and how investment can be best spent. Demographics essentially refers to the description of the physical population and its composition. To get this, a census must be done regularly to obtain this information. Let's now discuss the Human Development Index. The Human Development Index, or HDI, attempts to define the well-being of people more broadly. It provides a combined measure of 3 basic dimensions of human development, being health, education, and income. HDI is also a measure of people's ability to live long and healthy lives, as well as to participate in the community and to have sufficient income to experience a decent lifestyle. We'll now discuss the Human Poverty Index. The Human Poverty Index, or HPI, is a measure of poverty that is based on 3 dimensions of poverty, which are as follows. 1. Income poverty, which is the inability to afford basic necessities such as food, shelter, and clothing. 2. Deprivation in health, which is the lack of access to healthcare, clean water, and sanitation. And 3. Deprivation in education, which is the lack of access to education and the inability to read and write. We will now focus on health and nutrition. It is important to state that the standard of living of the population is related to the quality of nutrition and health. Under nutrition, the following are measured. Child malnutrition. Malnutrition is expressed in 2 ways. Weight, reflected in the child being underweight for the age, and the height for the age of the child. The proportion of underweight children is the most important indicator of malnutrition. Nutrition is also measured in overweight children. This measure looks at the association between obesity of children and other diseases. Under health, the following are measured. 1. Infant mortality. This measures the number of children that will die before the age of 1 year. Mortality of under 5s. This measures the number of children that will die before the age of 5 years. Health expenditure. This measures the amount of health expenditure as a percentage of GDP. Access to safe drinking water. This calculates the percentage of a population that has reasonable access to safe drinking water. Access to sanitation facilities. This calculates the percentage of a population with at least adequate sanitation facilities that can prevent human, animal, and insect contact. Another social indicator we'll discuss is education. The standard of living is also related to the level of education. Education is therefore a key social indicator. This can be measured in the following ways. Public expenditure. This is the percentage of the national budget that is directed towards education. Secondary enrollment. This shows the percentage of an age group attending high school. Primary completion. This shows the percentage of an age group that has completed primary education. Youth literacy rate. This shows the percentage of young people between the ages of 15 and 24 who can be considered literate. A high ratio of literacy, knowledge and skills can be achieved through effective and appropriate education and training. The South African government spends 20% of total state expenditure on education. When a large percentage of the population is well educated, the economy will be more productive and competitive, which then creates national wealth and a higher standard of living per capita. Essentially, the standard of living of people is directly connected to their education. Educated people are employable and can earn income to provide for their own needs and wants. Services also form one of the social indicators. There are a number of services that are vital to enhance people's lifestyle and the level of economic and social development. These services include electricity, refuse removal, water supply, and sanitation. These services have a direct effect on people's standards of living. The provision of these basic services may differ from rural to urban areas. It is the responsibility of the government to provide these basic services. While Statistics South Africa, on the other hand, is responsible to collect information, to measure the level of development and performance of various government programs and projects. The last social indicator we'll discuss involves housing and urbanization. The standard of living of the population is further related to the quality of their housing and services. Housing. Many South African citizens are poor and cannot afford property. Therefore, government supplies housing subsidies, and the private sector provides housing loans. Urbanization. The level of urbanization is one of the indicators of a country's social development. It is measured by the natural growth of the urban population, intramigration, and the establishment of new towns. In order to track the performance of a country's social indicators, it is valuable to compare them to international standards. South Africa is able to monitor the progress of its social development by comparing its performance with that of other countries through data collected by international organizations. These organizations include the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund. These figures usually provide the best data for comparison purposes. Before we continue, as promised, here are 5 quick study tips for you to remember. Starting with number 5. Create a study schedule. A study schedule will help you stay on track and make sure you're covering all of the study material. Number 4. Be prepared. Have all your materials ready before you begin studying. Pencils, pens, highlighters, paper, etc. This will ensure that you are not distracted and moving around instead of studying. Number 3. Repetition, repetition, repetition. This is the key to retaining information you have to learn. Keep going, don't give up. Number 2. Teach others. Try teaching your concepts to anyone who's willing to listen. It might feel strange at first. The idea here is that, if you can explain the concepts you've learned to someone else, then you know them, and will remember them. And very important, number 1. Sleeping at least 8 hours every night, eating properly, and drinking plenty of water are all important things you need to do for your brain. Studying for exams is like tough exercise, so you must be prepared mentally, as well as physically. Now back to today's topic. Just to recap on what we covered, in this video we learned about social indicators, which are sometimes called human development indicators, or development indicators. These indicators measure changes in the standard of living. We also discussed the following social indicators, which are demographics, the Human Development Index, the Human Poverty Index, health and nutrition, education, services, as well as housing and urbanization. We also discussed how countries can track the performance of their social indicators with international standards. To understand more on this topic, please take time to re-watch this video. We hope we were able to provide more clarity on this topic. If we have, please leave us a comment below this video, because we would love to know what you have learned. You can also leave us a thumbs up emoji to show your appreciation. Also make sure you like this video, and take time to share and subscribe for more.
Stay creative. Stay curious. Stay connected with Kano Academy.